On this episode, we discuss some of the silly, annoying, repetitive requests that expats have to deal with from friends.
So if you ever had your cousin's friend's sister's manicurist come to Bangkok and ask you where the night market is, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 to track down the Russian gangsters who murdered the dog my dying wife gave to me.
Jeez.
But I got so distracted by life in Bangkok that I sold the rights to a movie studio and have been here ever since.
All right, and I am Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 20 years ago. Fell in love with having Thai people translate stuff for me that I should have learned years ago. And I never left.
That gets like exponentially better the longer you've been here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really horrible. Some of the stuff that I have friends or family or, just people I know, like, can you please translate this? And I remember asking people to translate the same thing 15 years ago. I can't learn it. I can't learn these 3 words that mean like tax return or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know?
The worst part for me is when I have to say something extremely simple, like I have to tell someone like, oh, can you just like leave it on the table or something? And I'm like,
right.
I don't know. I'm like, I just spurt out like, item, table, you go. Anyway.
No, it's bad. I have I'm still having work done on my apartment, and I'm some of these actually most of these construction companies or remodeling companies, they're super Thai, so they don't really have anyone who speaks English. And I'm just I have to hand the phone off, or depending on where I am, it's like, if I'm around some just Thai friends, I give it to one of them.
Right.
But it's pretty embarrassing. After 20 years, I can't tell a guy like where I live and to be at my place at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. I mean, I could do it, but I know it's going to lead to so much confusion or miscommunication. It's just easier to get a Thai person to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Or at least that's the mentality that leads you to where I am.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. It's funny.
All right. We want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Todd Brown, who supports us at the show shout-out level. Stick around after we're done talking about things that annoy us as expats to hear why Todd is my patron saint of Bangkok Blues. We actually want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, which you can find on our website, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons like Todd also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about Greg buying huge sheets of glass on a whim, my descent into a YouTube black hole, and some of the strange channels both Greg and I watch, the yes you can, no you can't seesaw of government edicts in Thailand, and why Greg has lost patience with conspiracy theorist friends on Facebook. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
All hail the Illuminati.
That's right.
All right, well, on this episode, we wanted to discuss some of the annoying little ways that friends and friends of friends take advantage of expats who live in Thailand. Now, we, as expats, enjoy a lot of perks and generally are able to straddle 2 worlds, 2 cultures, 2 countries, and 2 groups of friends, both here and back home. But a lot of time, our expat status leaves us open to requests, questions, demands, and pleas that are alternately amusing, annoying, and just plain stupid. Now, Ed and I have a lot to say about this, but to add some extra depth, I sent out a message to our 423 line friends, Ed. We're up to 423 now.
Nice.
Yeah. And I asked them for their input too, to give us a little bit of color. And they sent in some of the things that they are tired of as well. So, Ed, what got us talking about this topic? And then we figured it might make a good topic for a show.
I can't remember why I brought it up to you. I can't remember exactly why I brought it. Maybe I was having a bad day. But you and I have talked endlessly about the good things outweigh the bad things here, and that's why we're here.
Yes, and to be clear, this is not going to be a show where we're just going to bitch about Thailand and ways it should change. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, and obviously we wouldn't be here if the bad outweighed the good.
Right.
But there are certain just perennial annoying things. So I like the idea of the show is more just repetitive annoying things, because it's not just a bad day where a random thing happens to you that's never going to happen again. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm just talking about repetitive annoying aspects of being an expat. So for me, I have a very easy and immediate answer. I've got a list of things, but by far the thing that annoys me the most is just when Thai people assume I'm a tourist because I'm white.
All right. Yeah, I could think that can get annoying.
To me, this is number one, and I noticed it even after I'd only been here a couple months. So I was not a wise old Thai hand by that point. I'd only been in, but just there's a big difference between living somewhere for 2 months and being a tourist. You don't feel the same. You know what I mean? You don't feel the same. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely not. But you'd
You're
look
like,
the same.
I live here. You're like, I live here, man. Okay,
Well, maybe
I'm not
if you
a
changed
tourist.
out of your elephant pants sometimes.
That's right. Yeah, no, I don't, part of the frustrating nature of this is that I can't necessarily blame the Thai people who do this, whatever. It's almost always them trying to sell me something. And it's just, you get tired of it. And I was tired of it, I think, in month 3.
Right.
So that was quite a long time ago.
But you're not blaming the Thai person. You're just saying like it's an annoying thing that happens over and over and over.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're to me, if you're an expat in Thailand, this is what I would warn you about. I'm like, okay, you're just gonna have to put up, no matter how long you're here, a bunch of Thai people are gonna assume you just got off the airplane.
Right, like you're here for 5 years and you're like, oh my God, have you seen these frogs where you rub a stick down its back and it goes
exactly? No. The clicking frog is almost that's like Exhibit A in my thing. But it doesn't matter where. It could be. Near my university is also near the Grand Palace. So there's tons of sketchy cab drivers around there, and so a combination of me being white and being near there, they always, want to charge me 500 baht to go somewhere, and which is annoying in itself. But it's just because they see a white person and they just assume that I'm a tourist. And whether I'm in a tourist area or not, I still find it annoying. Even though I can forgive them a little bit if I'm at the beach, and then people are just constantly coming up to you to sell stuff. Well, I'm on the beach, so. But still, I'm not the same. It sounds weird. This sounds like expat snobbery, but I'm not sure it is. Like I'm not higher status than tourists. I'm not higher. I'm just in a different category. So like
a better category.
No, that's you. I didn't say that. It's like the shit that tourists are into or interested in. I'm not interested in that.
Right. I will say the beach thing does get annoying because it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, or where you come from. Those guys are relentless, and I said a long time ago, I want to be one of those guys on the beach, but I'm going to be selling signs that say no, thank you, or if I'm interested, I will ask for one.
That's right.
I'd probably get lynched and thrown into the ocean by
we need
vendor mafia.
We need a sign in Thai for sure that says if I want anything, I'll ask for it. And just I could stick that in the sand. I could stick that in the sand next to my chair.
Your pile of wooden frogs.
Anyway, so I do have other things on my list, but actually some of our listeners who wrote in, some of their stuff is very similar to my complaint. So I'm going to turn it over to Greg and see what he's got and see what our listeners have.
Yeah, so I grew a lot of our listeners have sent in similar things, so I grouped them kind of together, and let's just go through and see what we say about each one of these things. So Matt and Jeff each said that they really hate it when they travel, when someone asks them to bring me a bunch of stuff to Thailand or from your home country or to your home country or from Thailand or whatever. Like basically act as a mule. And I feel a little bit of a hypocrite bringing this up because I am a mule, and a lot of our listeners have very kindly offered to bring us stuff from wherever they are when they come to Thailand.
No, I was going to say I have to plead guilty of this because I do ask friends of mine who are coming to Thailand, or if a buddy of mine in Thailand goes back to the States and then he's coming back to Thailand, I am the kind of person who'd be like, dude, can you? Sometimes it's something big, like I bought a camera, and I asked my buddy to bring it back, and I try to take care of him or be nice or whatever, buy some beers for him. But I'm gonna have to plead guilty to this.
Yeah, me too. I once asked a friend to bring me a pair of size 14 Doc Marten shoes. I mean, he could have used each one of those as its own suitcase. But I can see where it does get a little bit annoying. Like, oh, you're coming back home. Hey, can you bring me like, a bunch of elephant pants, or can you buy me $100 worth of sarongs, or
For sure. No, I understand this.
I can't bring stuff back for everyone.
Yeah, I have been the person on the other end too, where people have asked me to buy stuff and whatever. I usually do it, but it can be a pain. I agree.
Yeah. And our buddy Sid, he wrote in, and this bothers me too, because when someone comes to Thailand and they're like, hey, where can I buy like a t-shirt or a toothbrush or a suitcase? Like very regular stuff that every store anywhere in the world will carry. Hey, where can I buy shoes? Whatever it is, something that's just extremely common.
So basically the answer is just go to any mall.
Yeah, any store anywhere will have that thing that you want in any country in the world.
Just walk 10 meters forward to the 7-Eleven.
Exactly. Hey, where can I buy water?
Yeah, again, I think something happens to your brain when you're a tourist. You're just in a different mindset, and and obviously you are typically in like another world, but it does lead you to sometimes ask dumb questions.
Yeah, I get it. And you want to, maybe you err on the side of like, well, I better ask just in case, because.
Right. And you don't, maybe you realize you need to go to the mall, but you don't know where the mall is.
Well, in Thailand, that's a bit difficult because
right.
Like you swing a dead cat and you'll hit 4 malls on your way around.
Yeah. Tourists, but tourists do ask dumb questions about like, how can I do this? And you're like, well, you could do that. Just there's a toilet right there. They have toilets here.
Right. Now, the other end of that scale, Ant sent us something in, and he said it's the same thing, but hyper specific items like, hey, where can I buy bulk Chinese silk or antiques or, Eastern medicine?
Oh, wow.
Like, what am I? Well, I don't know.
It's funny. I had this happen to me. It's funny. I had this happen to me a little bit, but in my case, it was lucky. The answer, like a buddy of mine was coming through Thailand because his wife, a friend of hers, was getting married in the south of Thailand in kind of like a vacation wedding thing.
Okay.
Right. So everyone was flying to Thailand to go to this wedding on the beach. Right. And so they had to buy a gift. But basically they needed like a frame for like a painting, like a proper frame for a painting, which is like way out of my wheelhouse. Like, so he's like, dude, I'm going to be in tomorrow. Like I need a 24-inch by 48-inch, frame for a painting. I'm like, dude. But in this case, I lucked out because just near my university is a famous art supply shop.
Nice.
And I just happen to know that shop. So I told him, like, I don't know exactly, but I think this is your place. So I scored. But it is a little bit when people ask you stuff outside of your specialty. Like, why would you know that?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, they got to ask someone. So, okay, I get it, but
right.
Don't be disappointed when I don't know where you can buy ground up Madagascan mushrooms or whatever they are. Like,
right.
I don't do that.
Well, this is pretty much kind of like, can I Google that for you situation? Because in most of those situations, I'm just going to Google it just the same way they would.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where that lmgtfy.com website comes in. Let me Google that for you. You know that one?
Yeah. I do. It's so funny.
Where you put it in and then you send them a link, and when they click on it, it shows Google opening up and the mouse moving to the square, and then it types the query for them. It's great.
It's so funny.
Yeah. And Mark sent something in that I really identify with, and this is the first thing that I go to, much like you go to being mistaken for a tourist. This bothers me all the time when people say, hey, what hotel should I stay in?
Oh, yeah. Shit.
And, I mean, even though I worked for Agoda for 8 years, I don't know. I don't stay in hotels.
You were doing like IT support, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and most of us are not even in the tourism sector anyway. This is a good one. Like assuming, in a way, it falls back on my thing, like you said, because it's thinking that as an expat we have tourist expertise.
Exactly.
Which, you and I think you and I, we have better tourist expertise now just because of the podcast. So the nature of the podcast is we focus on expats, but we're here to help tourists and repeat tourists, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not sure I could recommend a hotel. I can recommend a location. I think I could do that.
Yeah, like, oh, Sukhumvit has tons of hotels. Look there. But
Yeah, or look, so you want to stay near Osaka. Like I could do that, but as far as specific hotels, I can't. Even after 20 years, I can't.
But I'm not going to go
recommend-
like, oh, this hotel is awesome because it has everything that you
have no-
specifically will like. Wow, I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of game. No way.
Exactly. Yeah. So these next few are related, and they are sent in by Stephanie, Yosha, and Ants. And they say that they don't like the expectation of acting as a tour guide when they go to tourist traps.
Oh, right, sure. Yeah, this is
Or
good too.
people
Yeah.
asking, when I go to X, like a Utia or Chiang Mai or whatever, they expect a planned itinerary or the knowledge of a good tour company.
Right. Yeah. Again, this is overlaps a little bit with my thing, but it's just the assumption that we have tourist expertise. And the thing, again, in defense of these people, in some cases we might. It's like I haven't had that many visitors recently, but the first 5 years I was here, I had visitors come every year. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I did develop some game. I had some recommendations of, here's the best way to do this.
It's funny though, because this is something where the longer you're here, the less game you probably have, right?
I think that's a really good point, because my best tourism game was 2005.
Oh yeah.
Because I had been here 5 years and I had visitors every year.
Okay.
Friends and family came every year. Actually, probably for the first 7 or 8 years, because I remember how odd it was one year where I had no visitors, and I think it was year 8 or 9.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I had visitors come every year, and I definitely wasn't an expert. I mean, I made some big mistakes in terms of my recommendations, but I learned, and I had some wisdom. But you're right, man. The longer you stay here, unless it's your job. So a lot of our friends are in the tourism sector, and it's their job to stay sharp and know this tour or know that.
Right, but if you're not, and someone says, "What should I see when I go here?" You're like, "Well, like the same thing everyone says."
Yeah. What's the best plan for a Utia day trip? I would say, like, Google it. I don't know. I don't know the best plan for a Utia day trip.
And also, I'm not going with you. Like Stephanie says, when you're expected to, hey, you want to go to the Grand Palace? Like, no.
Well, yeah, for sure.
No, I don't want to go.
Oh, that's a good one too. That's a good one too. I have had that. Plus, I'm just not that into temples. I mean, I usually, like, the big ones I have gone once. The Grand Palace. I've gone more than once, but really after the first time, I'm not that into it.
Yeah, Grand Palace is gorgeous, but it was built 150 years ago and it hasn't changed since. So me not going in 10 years is not like I'm going to go back and be like, ooh, they've added a bunch of new buildings.
That's right. Now,
and don't correct me. It was probably more than 150 years ago. I don't know. But I'm just
the downside of this show is we're just going to come across as being like mean and unhelpful. Like, the bottom line is the bottom line is it actually does depend on who is asking, because if, a close family member or close friend was like, hey, do you mind coming to the temple with me? I would do it, and actually, it wouldn't bother me.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a big caveat.
It's when it's like a friend of your uncle's sister's, son's classmate from college.
Right. How closely do the Venn diagrams of your relationship with this person overlap?
Yeah, that does matter.
If it's not a lot, then I'm not going to put a lot of effort into recommending stuff.
But I'd like to play tour guide, as long as it's not that often, and I really feel like I care about it's my niece or something. It's like I'm like, I want to show them a good time.
Yeah, right. Well, this is an interesting one from our buddy Tim. He says, as one of the last expats left standing among my group, I am the, quote, man on the ground to do favors, act as a power of attorney, or refill Thai SIM cards.
Oh, interesting. So he's talking about dealing with people who've left Thailand.
Yeah, who've left Thailand, and now he's still here, and they're like, and he's
interesting.
So he's had friends call him up and be like, hey, I need this really important document signed. Can you be my power of attorney? That's strange, right?
I've dodged that. I know a lot of people who've left, but I guess maybe they've just left for real or left for good. So I haven't had to do that. But again, I'm going to plead guilty on this because I have to have people in the States do stuff for me. This can you go to the bank and do this? So I've done it in reverse with my buddies left back in the States where I've asked some favor for.
Right, that's fair enough. But I think you probably know like a bunch of people in the States you could ask. But I think if you moved, like when people move back to their home country,
Oh,
I
right, it
think a
could be,
lot of
right.
people, like you might know one or two or maybe three people
Right,
who
right.
are still here. So then you become, like Tim says,
Right.
the man on the ground, and you get
Yeah,
all these
yeah.
requests from people.
I guess I've just dodged this bullet, but I understand what he means.
Yeah. Jeremy says, for me, it's the automatic assumption that living in Thailand means you can come up with the awesome, fun-filled trip itineraries, can explain all about Thai politics and history, know the language fluently, can recommend all sorts of interesting dishes, can explain the ingredients in the dishes, and know all the best secret hidden shopping places after living in the country for a year.
That's an interesting point. I had a lot of visitors my first year and second year and third year. I'm not sure if they put a lot of pressure on me or not. I think it was more that I obviously knew a lot more than them. Like just being here a year, I probably thought I knew more than I did.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So maybe I dodged this one as well because I think back when I did have visitors, I wanted to impress them with my knowledge.
Right.
Don't go
I
here.
remember
Don't go
when
here. Do that.
I remember my mom came here, and I had been here like a year and a half. And I remember her telling me, like, wow, you speak fluent Thai already. So the absolutely bottom of the barrel, craptastic Thai I was speaking was enough for my mom to think it was fluency.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. So maybe people's, expectations are pretty low. But yeah, after a year, you may not know all the little ins
For
and
sure.
outs.
But I can relate to the idea of feeling the pressure to be an expert.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you're not actually in the tourism business.
Yeah, it's like so when someone comes over, like, can you recommend all this stuff? And you're like, no, I can recommend a really good way to commute to my office every day because that's my life.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So Andy sent us in two, and the first one I really don't like either. And it says, he said, I don't like it when people write and say, I am thinking of moving to Thailand. Will X amount per month be enough to live on?
Interesting. I've read about this a lot on message boards, or I've seen a bunch of articles on blogs about how much money do you need to live on. And you're right; it's such a subjective thing.
Exactly. It's so subjective, and like, well, I don't know. Are you comfortable with a one-room place like out in Ramkhamhaeng somewhere, or do you
Right.
need a 4-bedroom condo on Sukhumvit?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you eating out and drinking a lot, or are you going to eat street food every day and have mango smoothies 4 times a day for whatever? So it's hard. It's impossible to say. I don't know.
That is a classic question though for expats.
Yeah, it is.
And the only proper answer is, well, it depends.
Exactly. And his other one is an interesting one. He says, I don't like it when people say, I have met a new girlfriend. Can we meet up as a 4 so you can give me your opinions on her?
God. Okay. So I've never had to do this, but I can imagine
It's happened to me once. Yeah. And it's
where
very
someone
awkward.
wanted you to check out some new person
They
were
never
dating.
said that specifically, but they're like, hey, I'm dating this new girl. I'll bring her along. And then after they're like, so what do you think? I'm like, all right, what do you want me to say? I don't know. Andy also says, my wife and I never do this anymore. Too many bad experiences.
Well, I think that's kind of a no-win situation because you don't want to be the
Yeah.
person who's like, dude, I really don't like her. I think she's a bad idea. And then they end up getting married.
Yeah, then you're the asshole.
Right. There's not much upside to that.
That's right. And this is interesting. Sasha wrote in, and he's showing an uncommon amount of responsibility here for when people ask him stuff. And he's like, to be honest, I am stoked when people request to stay with me. Pickup truck ownership comes with the occasional, can you help me move and transport my fridge? But this is fun. This is interesting, right? Because I see this on the expat forums, on Facebook and other places so many times. Hey, I've got to move X furniture to X place.
Right.
Who can I call?
Yeah,
And that's not something that most people know.
For sure. That's quite kind of him to do that. It's funny. Years ago, this was, again, more than 10 years ago, I went through this phase where I'm like, I decided I wanted to buy a car.
Okay.
And at the time, I was moving a lot. And so I was thinking, maybe I'll get a pickup. Pickup trucks have gotten a little bit stylish lately,
Yeah.
And I remember my buddy telling me, dude, of course you can like move yourself, but that means everyone else is going to ask you to help them.
That's right.
And so my buddy was
That's
like,
right.
dude, he's like, pickup truck, bad idea.
That's right, because back home, almost everyone knows someone with a pickup truck. But
Right.
here, I
Right.
mean, it's kind of unusual. I mean, not everyone's friends have cars, let alone a
sure.
pickup truck.
Right, definitely. No, for sure. You would be hit up. You would definitely be hit up a lot.
Well, good on you, Sasha, for being the one guy that's like, yeah, it's like the famous Spider-Man comic, right? With great carrying capacity comes great responsibility.
It's great.
And the last one we want to get into, actually, this one's a little bit different. It comes from Sam. And they say, my country has a wretched history of damaging Southeast Asian countries, though Thailand less than others. So I think the real question is not whether my expat status is exploited, but whether I exploit. I try not to. There's a genre of expat whinging that takes pleasure in cherishing small grievances about Thailand, grievances about things that will never change. To me, it's really a first step thing. We accepted we are powerless over Thailand.
Well, I mean, I think that it's a very good point in that that trap of becoming just an expat bitcher and whiner and moaner. Americans, we don't say whinging, sorry.
They must be British because that's definitely a British word.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely a dangerous trap that expats can fall into. And I mean, I was aware of these guys pretty quickly from online message boards.
Yeah.
And so at least I don't want to be that guy. I think I've done a decent job. And I think you've done a good job on this podcast of emphasizing the positive as well as being honest and keeping it real on the downsides.
We're honest with it, right? Everyone has the right to complain about certain things, but to let them become the focal point of your existence is just a dead end.
Right, yeah. I mean, certain things, a bunch of the stuff we complain about is probably never going to change, and when we should realize that.
Right.
But hopefully some things, like the horrible contradictory PR coming out of the Thai government, maybe that can get better. Maybe.
But but things like that, this is, I guess
we have no power over that. Yeah, right.
Right, but you could also most classify that as constructive criticism. Like, a rising tide lifts all boats. We want this to improve everyone's life.
Well, I think a lot of them, to be honest, I would say most of my bitches and moanings do have a positive angle. I mean, maybe not all of them, but it is meant to be constructive.
Yeah. Anyway, I think living as an expat, like, I think there are an immense amount of privileges that come with it. Like you've said on the previous shows, Ed, we do get discriminated often against, but usually it's in our favor.
That's right.
Like when you walk into your tax office and place dumb foreigner and they do all the work for you. But
why do you keep repeating that?
It's such a devious plan. but living as an expat does come with some responsibilities, some expectations that we need to accept, that everyone has to accept. And it's like I've said before too on the podcast, we are sort of all ambassadors for expatdom to a certain extent, and I think we need to act like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think just try to be a good person. Try not to be a jerk. That's what it boils down to.
Isn't that in the Bible?
I think it is.
Maybe I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. Anyway, thanks everyone for sending in your thoughts online. We really appreciate that. Some good stuff in there. But let's all just take a moment to say that we are all very lucky to be living here in Thailand and enjoying this incredibly, overwhelmingly hot weather right now. Yeah. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of life in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something that we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with, no matter how we feel about it. Very apropos to this week's discussion. So last time, Ed's topic was soda in a bag, and this week it is my turn. So Ed, what are your thoughts on, and then this is not only specific to Thailand, but it does happen a lot in Thailand, when you get online, not online, but on the Line chat app, and you are chatting with a friend and you're like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, and I'm kind of excited or nervous and blah, 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 and I want to do this. And you put a lot of detail and stuff into the message that you send, and you press send, and a few minutes later you see the 3 dots that are tapping back, and then it's like boink, and it's like a chicken with pom-poms or a sticker or something like that, like a single sticker response.
Oh, just kind of the emoji response.
Yeah, to a well thought out text.
Oh, this is quite funny. Yeah, this might be like you're right. This is kind of a general social media thing. But Thai people are really into emojis and GIFs. I mean, okay, certainly some of it is the language issues and stuff, but I just feel like it's a very popular Thai thing. So, like, for example, one of my students who has fluent English and is a working professional, she does this all the time. Oh, yeah. She's still even though she has fluent English, She just communicates with emojis and gifs and the smiley faces and and it's weird. They're actually, there is a charm to it, but as you pointed out, sometimes you're typing and writing and making thoughtful points, and you expect like a thoughtful response, and you
somewhat
get like,
coherent response.
You get like a big thumbs up.
Right. Right.
You definitely can too. I'm going to do a live with. It doesn't bother me that much, but it is. Yes, it can be annoying. Well, there's the annoying aspect to it, and then there's also I don't know if the right word is childish. What's the right word? It's just to me, emojis. Again, I'm just the old crabby man, because I'm just, to me they seem childish. Aren't emojis just childish, Greg?
They are, but you know what? They have taken on a little bit of weightier.
It's a language now. It's like
emojis
are a language.
It's like memes.
Right.
Memes on their surface are just like a picture with text, but the right meme can say a lot.
For sure.
And I think stickers and emojis and stuff like that can carry a lot of implicit meaning with them. But still, sometimes I would appreciate a bit more effort into my replies.
Agreed.
So
agreed.
I'm going to go live with on this one too. But it's nice to get actual words in response.
I wish we could separate out how much of this is just generational, like younger people are more into it, versus cross-cultural.
Right.
Like I don't know if this is just you and I communicate with young people who use that stuff more than we do, right? Because we're old,
Yeah.
Or if it's a Thai thing or a language thing, I'm not sure.
But damn it took me 22 years to learn how to read. I want to use that skill.
That's right. Okay, so as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Todd Brown for lending us his support at the show shoutout level. Greg, what did you find out about Todd?
Well, as it turns out, I sent a couple of messages back and forth between our friend Todd. And turns out, Ed, you'll like this. He is a documentary filmmaker from LA.
Cool.
Who has a company called Asia Media Lab, and he mostly focuses on nonprofits like UNICEF, WWF, WHO, Save the Children, Amnesty International, and things like that. He lived in Phnom Penh for 10 years, and he moved to Bangkok 2.5 years ago, which is interesting. Now, you and I have did a whole show a few seasons ago about the differences between Phnom Penh and Bangkok.
Sure.
And I really would like to hear more from him about what he thinks about living for 10 years in Phnom Penh. That's a long time.
For sure.
How that compares to Bangkok. That's the real Wild West. And he said, I also give workshops on shooting, editing, and scripting TV news across Africa for Voice of America.
Very cool.
Todd sounds like he has a hell of a career, man. That's interesting.
No doubt.
Yeah. And he also says he loves the live music in Bangkok. Woodshed for New Orleans style jazz, Black Cabin, Add Here the 13th. And he looks forward to getting back and hearing live music once everything opens up again.
Nice. No, sounds like we got to get together for sure.
Yeah. Now, all this makes me think that Todd is your patron saint of Bangkok Blues, because this guy, he's a filmmaker. He's a documentary guy. You're a huge documentary guy. He loves live music, and you're all about the live music. So what he's saying is he's already into these places. So it'd be great, because it's funny. Like a couple, like for example, the place called Black Cabin is known for live music. I never heard of it.
Oh yeah. I've actually never been there. So I see it listed, and it's just I never got around to going there. So he might be able to turn me onto some new joints.
Woodshed for New Orleans style jazz, he says. Was that a good place?
I don't know it. I don't know Woodshed.
The good thing about being a patron saint, Todd, is that you are obviously expected to buy all of your patrons beer, even though you are one of our patrons. We have elevated you to the patron saint of Bangkok Blues. So you need to buy us a beer.
We're sorry, it's just the rules. You're gonna have to pay.
We're trapped here, but you need to take us out to these places because they all sound really cool. And let's talk blues, let's talk whiskey, and let's talk documentary filmmaking.
For sure, sounds good.
Yeah, well, welcome to Bangkok, man. 2.5 years already. It goes by quickly, trust us. And thanks for your support, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, a final thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, we do. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail online that we'll feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg. Thank you for listening, everyone. Stay safe out there, and we will see you back here next week.
For sure. Greg, what did you find out about Todd?
Well, I accidentally
What did you say? What the hell was that?
I don't know. Sounded dirty.